Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Pastor Roland. Today, I want to talk about important things as always. The most important thing of all is finding your way back to God. Now, the whole human race began with a fall in the Garden of Eden. It's not a myth. I can see that it's true because I see the fall in every person's life. If you look at young people, they get married, they're looking forward to a bright future, and they're sure that things are not going to go wrong like they did perhaps with their parents who fought and divorced and so on. And what happens? Before long, there's resentment, arguing, unhappiness. The kids suffer, sometimes a divorce, or just living together in suffering. And things don't work out. People have big plans. Maybe they're a success in the eyes of the world, and they're not happy. Or maybe they keep trying and they're a failure in the eyes of the world, and they feel like a failure inside. So whether you succeed or whether you fail, in this system in which we live, unless there's no happiness unless you find God. So the whole human race is born separate. Each one of us is born close to God. See, you're closer to God when you're a little tiny baby than you are ever again in your life, unless you find salvation. That's the whole point. Now, there are many movies, like, for example, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Maybe you remember that one. Movies like that where someone is searching for treasure, searching for something important. Well, that's what life is. So you see the fact that you're born apart from God in a fallen condition, in this world presided over by wrong authorities, where everywhere you look there's cruelty, meanness, violence, stealing, dishonesty, deception, lies. Okay? There was once a movie. It was such a sweet movie. It was called Dark Crystal. If you haven't seen it, you really ought to go look for it. It was for children. Okay? But adults can watch it too. And if you haven't seen it for a long time, but saw it, years ago, you should watch it again. Because here you have these two lovely little people. I think they were called gelflings. I can't remember. But here they are in this world presided over by these ogres, these awful ogres. Well, that's kind of the way it is. That's kind of the way it is. Okay? But the good news is that God has put in this wonderful adventure part, like Raiders of the Lost Ark or like Star Trek, to search for something, to find something. Okay? Christ said, he talked about the pearl of great price, where the person, I can't remember the parable exactly, but it was something about searching. And then when you find the pearl of great price, well, that's a wonderful thing. So, and didn't Christ always talk about searching? He said, seek and you will find. Ask and it will be open. See, so you have to seek. You have to search. You have to wonder about things. See, everybody thinks they have the answer. People claim to have the answer, but they don't. Or they pretend to have the answer even though they know they don't. See? But you have to realize that you don't have the answer, and then search and wonder about life. See? You have to wonder and yearn to know the reason for your existence. Yearn to find the Father you've never known. Yearn for something good and pure. Okay? And then that need, that true need, that sincere searching of the soul, who's with a nonverbal cry to its creator, is answered by God. See? So, now you see how beautiful and wonderful it is. So when you look around you and see all of the bad things happening and all, like I said, all the cruelty and meanness and lies and everything, well, when you see it in perspective, okay, you just see that that's the way it is, but you search, because deep down in your heart, you know, deep down in your heart, you suspect, you have a hunch that there is something good, that there is something pure, and that there is truth, and that God does exist. See, deep down in your heart, you kind of know that that's true, but you're afraid to say it because you're not sure. You're still not sure, but you're hoping. Okay? Well, keep searching. Keep searching. So the whole human race has come from a fall in the Garden of Eden, and we're born fallen creatures in a fallen world to fallen authorities with a fallen nature. So it's not your fault. So that's good news too. See, it's not your fault. You can't help the circumstance you were born in. But you start at the bottom. And there's nothing. See, what is it that Zig Ziglar says? He says, when the outlook is not so good, try the uplook. It's always good. Okay? So there you are at the bottom. Well, when I went a long time ago, when I got out of college and got my first good job, after some part-time type jobs, I went to work for a large corporation, and it was there it was the old-fashioned way. You started at the very bottom. So I started at the very bottom. Although I was a quote-unquote management trainee, I was working in the file room as a mail boy at the very bottom. But they told us, they said that the vice president of that department, in fact, I think the president of the whole corporation also, did the same thing. Started at the very bottom in the mail room. Okay? So here you are now. Okay? Maybe life's not so good, things are messed up, a lot of things you don't understand. You look all around you and see bad things. Okay, well, now the only thing left is an uplook. See, start at the bottom and work your way up. Christ told an interesting parable. He said when you go to the feast, if somebody's giving a big banquet, then he said don't go and sit down at the head table, because the person who's being honored might come to you and say, hey, get out of here. You don't belong here. Then they'll boot you out. He said instead, sit at the very back of the room. And then maybe the person being honored will come to you and say, oh, I'm so glad you're here. Come with me. Come up to the front. See? So it's not so bad to be at the bottom. It's not so bad to admit that you don't know, that you haven't really found the answer. You thought you did, but you didn't. Okay? And things are not going so good and you've been messing up. It's not so bad to admit that. It's just the truth, that's all. Just admit it. You'll feel better. Admit it. Okay? No, of course it's not. I said it's not your fault that you're born in a fallen world with wrong authorities and with a fallen nature and all of that. I said it's not your fault. Okay? Which is true. However, I also have to say that you're not completely without some responsibility in all of this. See, you're probably, if you're like most people, when I say you, I'm just I'm just talking in general terms, but it usually applies to most people. So if you're like most people, you're full of a lot of hate, a lot of anger, you have grudges, unfinished business. See, maybe you resent your dad, wasn't there for you, he failed you. Okay, or your mom, she was too much, she spoiled you, or she got between you and your dad, or she put you down and yelled at you and slapped you around, bossed you around, and It was humiliating, see, or your big sister was mean, or your big brother was, see what I mean, was a bully, or kids were bullies. But how about you? Didn't you bully someone too? When you had a chance, weren't you cruel to someone? See, someone was cruel to you and then you turned around and you were cruel to someone else. Or did you let people down? You went off to college or to another city and you didn't care. You didn't care about those people who maybe you should have cared about. You were selfish. You wanted pleasure. You wanted pleasure. See. So now you have to see all these things. Maybe you were married. You made some mistakes. You were selfish. See, look, we all come into marriage selfish. You have to learn to be unselfish. See, that's what marriage is for, incidentally. Marriage is not supposed to be a pleasure party. Marriage is a framework, see, ordained by God. God blesses marriage. See, it's a framework ordained by God within which to work out the ancient mystery of what goes on between men and women. See, remember Adam failed. See, and Eve resented him for his failure. Adam was ambitious, and he failed. And then he looked to Eve to support him in his fallen condition. So how about you modern Eves? Did you resent your dad? Did you resent your husband? You resent men for failing? See? It's very easy to resent men, and it's easy to judge men. Because men are so judgeable. They become contemptible. They become like dogs, whimpering dogs, looking for their sex fix. Isn't that the way a lot of men are? And their egos are so wobbly. They're always craving support. Craving for you to support their pride. But when you do, and a lot of times you do, see, then a lot of times you're guilty for resenting him. And then because of the resentment, you feel guilty, and then in guilt, you're extra nice. And then you serve him to make up for the guilt. And then he takes advantage, or he becomes even worse. So your love that he craves, you begin to discover that it's not making him better, it's making him worse. And you wish he would stand on his own feet, see, and be a man, and not crave love for you. He should give love, not crave love. So there you have it in a nutshell. And you men, you've been wimpy. You put women on a pedestal. You put your wife on a pedestal, worshipped her, but look to her to support your ego, to make you feel that in your fallen state that your wrong is right, and make you feel that your animal is what a man is all about, your animal nature. See, you made her do that. Okay, which she did, but she resented you for it. Okay, so now you have to see that you've been weak, and then you were a people pleaser, undoubtedly, if you're like most men. See, I'm just saying in general. Of course, some men become brutes and violent and so on, but they're obviously wrong. They're just wrong. Okay? But a lot of men are not so bad. They're halfway decent. In fact, a lot of men are actually wimpy. People pleasers. They want to be popular. So a man is supposed to stand for something. See? In the Garden of Eden, Adam was supposed to say, Eve, put the apple down. Okay? Father says we're not to eat of that tree. But instead, he went for it. See? So a man has to stand for what's right, but not in an angry way. Stand based on principle, on a commitment to what is right, on a true love for others, and unselfishly. Okay? And with a twinkle in his eye. Not angry, but with a twinkle in his eye. See? Well, all right, so you have to learn all that stuff, you men. And you ladies have to learn not to resent your husband and not to hate men. See? You have to learn not to resent them and not to judge them. See? It's very easy to have contempt for men and then to puff up and feel superior. And that builds your pride, your ego. See? It builds your pride and then it causes you to have conflict and guilt. over your pride, for being um, contemptuous. See? So all these things have to, so it's like boot camp, especially for you men. Most of you are wimpy. You don't have any idea what your family needs from you. You got the wrong idea of what love is. You're a people pleaser. So you need a little boot camp, some basic training. That's what my books are for, and some of my videos and my lectures, especially my books. You need to learn some basic things. Then your wife will be much happier, and your kids, when you start to be a man again, see? Okay, and ladies have to learn not to resent men. Give him a little space. Give him a little space. Maybe he can find himself. Maybe he won't. Maybe he won't. But maybe he will. You don't know. See, you're so full of judgment that sometimes, see, some women get to the point where everything he does is wrong. They cannot even see him doing anything right anymore. They're so full of resentment toward him. But see, it started with their father. They transfer the resentment toward the father who failed them to their husband. So you see, there's a lot to learn, a lot to see. But you see, if you're starting on the ground floor, you can build and improve and grow. Build, you can improve, you can grow, you can learn, and you can seek for answers and find them. And there's even a salvation, the ultimate pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But you have to seek for it. Okay? So there is a mystery. When you were a little child, didn't you know life has mystery? You knew. Things were mysterious. See, you knew that they did. And you knew that life was for adventure. You knew that too. Okay? But people were cruel and mean and phony and plastic, and they put you down, and they did a lot. They did a number on you. That's what they did. They did a number on you. Well, you don't want to be a victim anymore. Okay? But by continuing to hate, to look for something from them, or to try to prove something to them, okay, or just resenting them, and then feeling guilty or serving them out of guilt, that's not how you're going to do it. You're just digging yourself in a deeper hole. Then you end up, despising yourself when you see yourself serving the very people that you've hated. So what you have to do is let go of the hate. Okay? And start afresh with God's help. Start afresh, see? That's why I have my meditations, all my books, 18 of them, all my lectures, my YouTube videos, but especially the meditation is the bread and butter of your spiritual discipline. You really ought to give it a try. You know, it's amazing. I can't even give them away. I've made my new ones free. People don't get it. They just don't. They're looking in the wrong place. They're looking in the wrong place. So, you want to get started? This would be a wonderful time to get started. So, like I said, if you're at the bottom, there was a man a long time ago. His name was Carlisle Marney. He was a radio preacher, maybe 60, 70, 80 years ago. I don't know, a long time ago, old radio preacher, and he wrote a book called Beggars in Velvet. Beggars in Velvet. Okay. But he had a chapter in there called Working the Night Shift. Working the Night Shift. Okay, so if you're working the night shift, okay, then don't resent it. Just see where you're at. Don't resent it. But quietly, maybe get my meditation. Give it a try. Read some of the things that I've written. Watch some of my YouTube videos. See if you can get started. What I do is I help you. It's like I kickstart you. Like, motorcycles used to be kick-started. See, I give you a little start. That's what the meditation is for. I want to get you started to refine your own inner ground of good. So then you can begin to do it on your own. You can begin, see, you can find God. And then with God's help, begin to discover all the things that you need to know and to learn. And you'll have wisdom. You'll have just-in-time wisdom. See? It's magic. See? Everything God does is magic. It's just amazing. So may I encourage you to refine the magic. It's there. Don't let them rob you of it. All the people out there who with their big mouths ruin everything and act so smart and so clever, and everything they touch becomes phony and vile. Okay? Don't let them ruin it for you. Just let them do whatever they do. Don't resent them. That's how you'll be safe. Don't resent them. Go about your business quietly, leading your life as best you can, and at the same time, begin to discover some of these beautiful spiritual verities of which I speak. And then you can implement them in your life. And it'll be like a secret thing. See, the other thing, when you were a little kid, sometimes you found something beautiful. You took it to someone, then they ruined it. They put you down, they laughed at it, they mocked it. They took it away from you. See, they found out that you liked something, so they took it away from you. Things like that. So now you're afraid. So now, see, begin your secret discoveries of God and of truth and some of the beautiful things. Begin to discover them, and it'll be a secret. Other people won't know, although they'll see a difference in you. You'll start to become more confident, more self-contained, less. They won't be able to get to you anymore and upset you. See, they may not like it. Those who don't like, who are not your friends. Those of you who are your friends will like it. They'll be glad to see that you're somehow, see, finding yourself. So that's what you need to do, is find yourself and the magic. My name is Pastor Roland.